Assalamu alaikum, everyone. What a tough act to follow. But nevertheless, an important topic. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to provide brief remarks to respond to the title of the session that asks a simple but important question. Why is nature everybody's business? And I'd like to suggest that the answer is also very simple, it is very important, but it is also fundamental. Nature is everybody's business because our economies depend on it, because we are inspired by it, as you've seen in this beautiful presentation, fashion presentation, because we are part of it, and because the responsibility for its future cannot be delegated. When asked, I always find the health and nature analogy something that really is useful to exemplify what I'm trying to say. So if you can just humor me and really imagine the idea that nature to our planet is like health to us. Without our health, we cannot function. Without our health, we cannot be productive, we cannot thrive, and we cannot be the best version of ourselves. But just like the Arab saying, الصحة تاج لا يراها إلا المريض, health is like a crown that only the sick see. Nature, like health, is often taken for granted and only missed when it's gone. Distinguished guests, we often speak as though nature sits alongside our economy, as an input, a sector, and perhaps a constraint. In reality, our economies are actually embedded in nature. Let's not forget that our economies are, in fact, human creations that depend on nature. Nature does not depend on us. But without it, we don't have the air that we breathe, the land that we cultivate, and the climate that we depend on. So in other words, there is no economy, there is no society without nature. So the first reason nature conservation is everyone's business is not simply that nature supports the economy, it is that an economy that fails to recognize its dependence on nature is ultimately unsustainable. But economic dependence is not the whole story. The second reason that nature has a value beyond economics is that it matters. It matters not only to our economies and our society, it matters because of its own intrinsic right to exist. This is not an abstract or sentimental idea. It is the ethical foundation that shapes who we are and how we act when different choices about conservation arise. And I'm proud to say that this inherent value is embedded in many cultures and many faiths, including my own. It is also worth reminding ourselves that we are not separate from nature. We are part of it, and when natural systems degrade, the harm is not only external, it is felt within the systems that we inhabit and we depend on. And this is where the concept of stewardship becomes essential. And which brings me to my final reason. Responsibility for nature cannot be outsourced. When something underpins our economies and our society the way nature does, it also doesn't sit within one single actor. It does not sit with governments alone, it does not sit with scientists alone, nor does it sit with future generations alone. We are all responsible and have our duty and interest to protect nature. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in short, that is why nature is everybody's business. Because responsibility for its future, just like our health, can neither be delegated nor delayed. Thank you very much for your attention.